You're listening to the Greeks Gridiron, live with Ethan Haristodoulou.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to more of the Greeks Gridiron. I am Ethan Haristodoulou, and today on this June 3rd, 2022, it is that time again of the week where we break down each and every single matchup in the USFL, going over the game picks, giving some of my thoughts on some of the betting odds and what I would and would not take if I was a gambling man, picking our winners, talking the final scores, the over-unders, all that good stuff. So make sure you comment down below, who do you think's coming out a winner here in week number 8? And also make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on all the other content we put out here. So let's talk some week 8 USFL picks, shall we? Game number 1 on the line here. We got the Maulers and the New Jersey Generals going at it head-to-head here. Maulers sitting at 1-6, where the Generals, of course, the playoffs already locked up for them, sitting at 6-1. This is kind of a throwaway game. I mean, this is not one that I think that the Generals really... I mean, the Generals have their playoff spot locked in at this point, but I'm sure they're playing for pride nonetheless, just because considering how good this team is and how they were kind of doubted early on in the year. I think some people had them ranked at the lowest around like the 4th spot or so, give or take, somewhere around there. But they have proven week in and week out that they are probably, if not the best, the second best team in the league. And the Generals, man, from top to bottom, they are just they're so good at everything. Whether it's, on the defensive side of the football, on the ground, through the air, they do things so well and so efficiently. I mean, they have the number 1 rushing attack with 166 basically yards a game, and they're going up against a Maulers team that can barely stop the run. They're allowing near 140 yards, 139 to be exact, per game. This is quite a mismatch. I expect Darius Victor to have a really good game here. He has 6 touchdowns on the year, and with how good this ground game has been looking the last few weeks, having a hard time buying that the Maulers are really going to give them any trouble, especially trying to stop that run game. They also, they have what I would consider the number 1 defense at this point, 112 points allowed on the year, and we all know the Maulers have already had a tough enough time trying to score as is, not playing the best defense in the league in terms of points allowed, and they're also allowing only 254 yards a game, which is also first in the league. This game stacks up well for the Generals. The Maulers just have not really done a ton well offensively. There was the drama last week between Vad Lee and head coach Kirby Wilson. That was it was not a good look for television, but it was going on nonetheless. I don't have a real strong confidence that the Maulers can get an upset here. And I understand, like I said, the Generals locked up the playoffs last week, but I don't think they're going to just be rolling over and letting the Maulers take easy wins here. I think the Generals are going to continue to do what they've been doing. I like the Generals winning this game 28-13. The Generals are -9 favorites, and that definitely seems like a possibility. I know a lot of these games have been decided within one possession, but the Maulers going up against the Generals is such a heavy mismatch that a -9 doesn't really seem too unrealistic here. I hammered the over for this one here, right on the dot at 41. The over-under for this game is also 41. I like it here because realistically, the over has been pretty much beaten for the most part fairly consistently the last, I want to say, like 4 or 5 weeks. The over is winning more often than not in a lot of these games here, and I do think the Generals can run away with a handful of points, and I expect the Maulers to maybe able to, like I said, 28-13, maybe get a touchdown and some field goals going for them. But overall, this is the Generals' game to win. I don't think that they're just going to roll over and let the Maulers steal one here. I like the Generals. Going into game number 2 now. This is the game of the week. The Breakers and the Stallions. This is a crazy game. 5-2 for the Breakers. The Stallions are 7-0. The Breakers want to win this game because they want to lock up themselves a playoff spot here. Stallions are -3 favorites with the over-under sitting at 44.5. This is not a game I would bet on, period, end of story, just because there's a lot of uncertainty and unknowns going into this game. The Breakers are the only team left in the league with single-digit sacks allowed, going up against a Stallions team that are second in sacks forced with 20 altogether on the year. And you're also looking at a Breakers offense who, through the air, is the most efficient at 215 yards a game. The Breakers, essentially for this one, if they want to be successful, they need to keep a balanced attack. Yes, that they're able to move the ball through the air, but when they get the ground game going, especially with, Jordan Ellis doing his thing in the backfield, this is a team that looks really good when they are balanced offensively, and I think that's going to be a key for this game as well. They're also the best team at third down conversion percentage. They're sitting at 42.7 altogether, which I think is going to be big going up against a Stallions team who suffocates a lot of offenses with what they do defensively. Meanwhile, I mean, you look at the Stallions, they already have a win over the Breakers. They won in week 3, 22-13 when both of these teams met, and they were undefeated at 2-0. They're one of the best scoring defenses in the league in terms of points allowed at only 119. So this is going to be a tough matchup for the Breakers to win. And I mean, it's going to be a tough one for the Stallions as well. I think this is one of the more competitive games we've seen so far this year back in week 3. Seeing it again now as the teams have kind of evolved a little bit and they've played a lot more together. I'm really curious to see what the end result is going to look like here. I think one thing for the Stallions to keep in mind, if they really want to be successful here, they are 12th in not 12th in takeaways. They have 12 takeaways. They are third best in the league with that number, whereas the Breakers have 12 giveaways, tied for second most. So if they can turn the football over and put the Breakers in a spot to where they're hurting themselves on a couple of, steal a possession or two, it would really sway in the favor of the Stallions. And the big thing for me, coming off of last week's game, the Stallions need Jamar Smith to play a much cleaner game than he did last week. Not necessarily his best game, and that's putting it lightly, that we saw from him last week here. So we need to see Jamar Smith play well, be opportunistic, take advantage of the fact that the Breakers make mistakes and tend to turn the ball over fairly frequently, and the Stallions have a really good shot at winning this game. As for the actual finishing winner and scoreline here, I'm putting my Breakers fandom on the line with this one, but I'm going to go with the Stallions here. As much as I think the Breakers can get an upset in this game, and I understand, playoff hopes are on the line, and maybe the Stallions get a little complacent. They've won, they've locked up the playoff spot, but also they're undefeated. I'm sure they want to try to be that undefeated team. I think even though the playoffs are locked up for the Stallions are still playing for a lot here. They want to, they probably want the perfect season, want to win the first inaugural championship and all that stuff, and those aspirations are very close at this point. I understand that the Stallions have locked up a playoff spot, but don't think that they're any less, motivated to get the win in this game here. And just the Stallions are just so well balanced and do so much so well that I have a hard time picking against them in this game here. So I have the Stallions, and I have them winning at a very close 26-3. So they do win by that -3 margin that they are favored for. But I mean, this game could come down to 1 point. I would not be really surprised. I don't think that this is going to be a blowout game by any means. I think it's going to be a tight-knit matchup between both of them. Then, going into game number 3, we are looking at the Michigan Panthers and the Philadelphia Stars, who the last time these two teams met came down to a heartbreaking loss for the Panthers off of a missed field goal when they did not have a kicker. But things are different this time around as you have Cole Murphy on the Panthers, who is probably going to be finding himself on an NFL roster sooner rather than later this offseason once things wrap up for the USFL. The Panthers, Josh Love is now their quarterback. I'm assuming Paxton Lynch is not getting the start yet. He's been hurt since he, made that first couple of drives a few weeks ago. And if Josh Love is QB1, I would say that, things fare a little bit better for them through the passing game, but they have to be better than that 6th ranked passing offense that they've been. They've only had about 160 yards or so a game. Leaning on Reggie Corbin is, of course, going to be a key to success going up against a Stars defense who struggles mightily against the run. They need to take advantage of this game. Reggie Corbin is leading the way in terms of yards per game at 86, and he also has a whopping 6.3 yards per carry number. So, I mean, he continues to be a beast on the ground and taking advantage of a Stars run D that really struggles against the run. This is a game that Corbin will probably have another big time, 100 and some odd yards, maybe a touchdown or so. I could definitely see it happening. Other than that, I think that the key for the Panthers in this one, if they want to win this game, the Stars recently, within the last couple of weeks, have found a rushing attack that's been very effective. The Panthers and their run D, allowing only 109 yards a game, second best in the league, need to slow that down. You look at what Case Cookus has been doing through the air for the Stars since he's taken over, and he's been fairly effective, doing a good job at not turning the ball over, and he's typically scoring around a couple of touchdowns a game. Slow down the run game, put them into that one-dimensional, offense that they were running prior to the last couple of weeks, and one that you almost beat just a few weeks ago. And I think that the Panthers do have a possibility at winning this game here. The Stars, meanwhile, they cannot let Reggie Corbin go off. The last time these two teams met, he averaged, and his season average right now is 6.3, but in the game that these two teams last met, He averaged 12.7 yards a carry off of 12 carries. He had 152 yards and a touchdown. He was a problem in week 4 for this team. If the Stars want to be able to put the Panthers away and get even closer to potential playoff hopes, they need to make sure that none of that happens. The good news is they're a disruptive defense for the most part. They let up a lot of yards, but they're fairly disruptive, and the Panthers do have somewhat of a track record turning the ball over. They have 21 sacks on the year, first in the league, and they've also taken the ball away 15 times, which is second best as well. If they can be disruptive and, just bend but don't break and try to, slow down that ground game and not allow 349 yards in the game like their season average is right now at 7th in the league, this is a good opportunity for the Stars to inch closer to the playoffs. Like I said, this is a dark horse team. With the way their offense has been looking, they have a good opportunity to sneak into the playoffs and be a problem because the ground game is emerging and coming to life here. They need to stay balanced, and they need to win this game. This is a must-win scenario here for the Stars if they want to try to get into the playoffs. I can't imagine a scenario where them losing this game works in their favor. If, say, like the Bandits come out and beat the Gamblers this week, that's going to be a problem. But we'll see what happens. I do like the Stars in this game here. I have them winning 27-24. They're -5.5 favorites going into the game. And just judging how these two teams played the last time that they met, that's a tough one to pick. I don't know if I would go -5.5 and bet on that one for the Stars on the spread there. The over-under sitting at 47.5. That one, I like the over. Like I said, the overs have been hitting a lot so far for the USFL. I think that the betting lines for the over-under have been a little bit lower. And so if you're going over-unders here, 47.5, I have the Stars winning 27-24. It was a pretty high-scoring game the last time these two teams met. I definitely like the over in that one if I was a gambling man. And then for the final game of the week, this one on Sunday at 4 p.m., we have the Houston Gamblers at 1-6 going up against a Tampa Bay Bandits team trying to keep their playoff hopes alive as they're pretty much kind of jockeying in position with the Philadelphia Stars right now. Listen, Bandits are -5 favorites. 44.5 is the over-under. I definitely think the over is possible in this game here, just based off of what these two teams can do in terms of scoring with the Gamblers in the first half, because Lord knows they can't score in the second half, and what the Bandits tend to be able to do in the second half because it takes them forever to score in the first half, or they barely ever do in the first half. These two teams are like polar opposites in terms of scoring with first and second half play. It's like we're gonna end up in an infinite loop of never being able to finish this game because the Bandits are gonna score nothing in the first. Well, maybe it works out. The Bandits will score nothing in the first half and they end up winning because they're able to score more than the Gamblers in the second. Who knows? But the Bandits, Jordan Teamo needs to have a clean game. He cannot be turning the ball over 3 times through the air like he did last week. The Gamblers, luckily for the Bandits' offense, have allowed a whopping 367 yards a game. That's worst in the league, so I expect the Bandits to take advantage of that offensively because they have been able to move the football somewhat effectively, especially when you're going up late in the game against some defenses when they get tired. That seems to be where the offense really starts to pick up. The Gamblers are also the worst passing defense in the league at 226 a game with the yardage. So, I mean, this is a good opportunity for the Bandits to sneak away with a win here and, hopefully get back to 500 and start looking at playoff hopes again. It's a tough one, though. Also, one thing to keep in mind, the Gamblers, while they do have a terrible defense, in terms of yardage, that is, they are the most aggressive team defensively at forcing turnovers. They have 16 on the year, best in the league. The Bandits, offensively, one of the worst at giving the ball away, or actually, I'm sorry, the worst at giving the ball away. They have 13 on the year. That is a season or a league high, 13 giveaways. I could see this game going sideways in a weird way at some point. If the Gamblers start off hot and they can get a, pick 6 from Donald Payne again this week or something, this is a very interesting matchup. And I'll tell you this, at -5 for the Bandits in this game, I don't like that at all. I don't think that this game is like either. I don't think these teams are that much separated in terms of like skill and what they can do and just as a team overall. Yes, the Bandits are 3-4. And the Gamblers are 1-6, but the Gamblers have gone down swinging in some really close contests. And if they can just muster some offense in the second half, because it's a literal on-running joke at this point, and it's sad because I love what the Gamblers do in terms of turning the ball over on the defensive side. It is fun to watch. They are so aggressive and so willing to take a chance, and it pays off a lot. The offense just needs to get going in the second half here, and I think the Gamblers do have a shot in this game. I can't believe it's -5 for the Bandits here. I would expect that to be a lot closer, like -2 or something like that, because this game feels like it's going to be a squeaker and a clincher. I don't think it's going to be, the Bandits running away or anything like that. That's for sure. There's no way. I mean, when was the last time the Bandits even really, ran away with a win? This is a really interesting matchup. I'll say this. I'm picking an upset on this one. I'm taking the Gamblers. I have the Gamblers winning 24-23. The over-under for this is 44.5. My scoreline's at 47. So, again, I do expect the over. I like the overs for just about all of these games. It feels very likely that all of these games could hit their overs just based off the team's matchups and everything. But I like the Gamblers for an upset here. They're not really playing for a lot. I don't think that there's any real road to possibility that they make their way. I mean, I guess if they win out and beat the Bandits here and the Bandits lose the rest of their games, the Gamblers could slip into the playoffs. I guess that is the possibility there. I don't know. I don't know if the Gamblers are really in a playoff contention spot right now, regardless of what happens throughout the rest of the year, but something is speaking to me. I think this is the week the Gamblers can score more than 10 points, their season high, in the second half and steal a victory and maybe stick a dagger in the playoff hopes that is the Tampa Bay Bandits. But that's my upset pick for the week. That is my final pick for all 4 games. I would love to know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you think of these 4 matchups in week number 8? We are getting ever closer to the 2022 USFL playoffs. Two possibilities right now that the playoffs get locked up and are spoken for. If the Breakers win, and I believe if the Bandits lose, that will be the Breakers in. They will lock up the other Southern Division spot. And then for the North, I believe if the Stars win and who is it? The Pittsburgh Maulers. And then I'm trying to see what the other one is here. I believe if the Stars get a win, they're also in, if I'm not mistaken here, because you have the Maulers and then you have the Michigan Panthers. Yeah, I'm almost positive if the Stars just get the win this week, they're also in the playoffs. So if Stars win and if Breakers win with a Bandits loss, playoff spots are spoken for. So if the Gamblers if the Gamblers want any shot at making the playoffs at this point, they're going to have to upset the Bandits here. And we'll see. Maybe that's a little extra motivation. Maybe that's what the offense needs to score more than 10 in the second half. I don't know. But that's it for me this week. I appreciate you guys for watching. I will catch you all in the next video. Again, let me know in the comment section down below. Who do you think's coming out winners? What do you think the playoffs are going to look like? Talk down below, and we'll have a good conversation afterwards. Appreciate y'all. Have a good one.